don't recall, but it is time we'll call this meeting to order. The Provo City Landmarks Commission hearing for January 21st, 2026. The time is 12:30, and we'll begin with the roll call. We'll start over here on my left.
Susan Kruger Barber, Jesse Ambry,
Eric Carter,
David Ammett,
Florence Hawkinson.
All right, and just a note of decorum, although this is a public hearing, only the presenters and those invited by the committee may speak or ask questions unless otherwise invited by the chair. Please wait to speak until called on. When speaking, please be sure to speak into the microphone so that the record is clear. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. Please limit side conversations as they interfere with the audio recording. If you need to have a side conversation, please step out of the chambers. Please do not attempt to interrupt or speak over people. Intimidating or threatening speech or behavior will not be tolerated at any time. Please refrain from clapping, cheering, booing, or being otherwise disruptive during the hearing. And with that, we will go to our agenda item. Today, item number 1, Allied Electric Sign Awning requests a certificate of appropriateness for installation of a wall sign on a historic property in the DT1 General Downtown Zone located at 71 East Center Street.
All right, thank you. So here's the property. It's in our downtown Provo Historic District, just off 100 East here on Center Street. And so this is the old Los Hermanos site where they had a fire several years ago, and the property's been restored on this building and in the process on the adjacent one. And so we're excited to have some new tenants in here, and they're looking to do some signage on the facade here. And so that's what we're looking at today. So on the left-hand side, you can see the current situation there. As far as where they plan to locate the sign, there's a small address sign they plan to remove. I think there's electrical behind that, and they'd like to locate their new sign they brought the sign from their old building to put here in that location shown on the right-hand image. And so that's the request. Staff's reviewed it. The signage is fine as far as our code goes. And so today we're just looking specifically at how it relates to this facade. And so staff has shown where we would like the signage to go on this storefront here. So this black storefront is new. It wasn't part of the original. So this was replaced when the building was restored. And a couple of reasons we feel it would be better here are just aesthetically to help kind of soften up that new storefront and add some a little more character right there. And then the bigger reason would be to protect the brick, the historic brick up above. So over time, as signage changes, as new tenants come and go, there's going to be more and more signage placed there. So you can kind of see there's a close-up of that area where that address was on that original image, kind of showing, over time there's been patchwork to this facade here. And so you can just imagine over the years to come how much more potential there is to kind of damage that brick. And so staff's recommendation would be to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the signage, but to have it placed on this lower storefront. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Dustin. I think I heard you say this sign is one they're taking from their old building, right? So it already exists and its size can't be changed, or?
That's my understanding.
Can you help clarify? You said historic brick. How old is this brick? Is it original, or, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, to my understanding, this is the original brick from this building. It's kind of got a glossy texture finish on it, and it's been, something that after those fires, we wanted to try to make sure these buildings could get preserved, at least the facade. And that's something that was able to be accomplished there. So we want to continue forward, kind of making sure we're maintaining those to the best that we can.
Okay. And I appreciate that awareness. Now, if somebody, if this tenant were to move out or to sell, and a new tenant came in and wanted to put up a sign, would they need to go through the approval process as well?
Yeah, so if it's, so this sign that they have, that's not it, that's an image overlaid, but it's, it's got its own shape and everything. So typically on, a sign that's just a rectangle or square or whatever, a new company could come in and change the text or whatever to meet their needs. But in this case, my guess would be that at some point, if they left, a new one would come in and need to probably replace the whole sign. If that's your
Yes.
question.
No, my question is then would that new sign require new
Oh,
permission?
yeah. So any new signage, they need to get a building permit for. And then we take a look at it as staff and determine if it's something that needs to come before the Landmarks Commission in these scenarios where it's in like a historic district or on a historic structure. If they came in and proposed on that new storefront, we could have just approved that administratively. But since they wanted to go on that historic brick, I thought it would be appropriate to bring it to the Landmarks Commission for discussion.
Okay. I'm also curious about several things here. The where it says address to be removed, 71, that's where the
Yeah.
no.
That's been removed right there, so you can see the
Right.
wires.
And this may not be for this discussion, but I do want to bring up that the door to the west, the yellow door that was also that has the little banner above it, that is 77. And then the one where Los Hermanos entrance was is 71. So I don't understand what's happening with the address. I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, so
That's
the
right.
address, so Los Hermanos took up both buildings. But they're on two separate parcels. So now that Los Hermanos is gone and new property owners are taking ownership of each building individually, where we just got the addresses fixed there. So this is 71. I think the other one is 69 or something like that.
With the 77
With the
between
yellow
them.
door, yeah.
I just went there today. It was 77 was between them.
Okay. Yeah, so that's
But-
something we've fixed in our
Okay,
computer
okay.
system, but
If
on
that's- if
site,
that's
yeah, we
taken
probably
care
have
of.
to look at that on
Yeah.
there.
What I'm thinking about are the fire codes and making sure that it's easy to find.
Yeah,
I'm also thinking that can you go back to the brick where the wire's hanging out? Obviously some things have been done there already. And I'm wondering if we could go ahead and approve the signage up there with the understanding that the next signage change would need to also go through approval. And that's when we make sure that no additional I think we're done. I think, oh, I'm not done. Okay. Make sure that that the brick remains intact. I just, and the signage that's over the doors right now, is that a temporary?
yeah, that's just a temporary sign.
Okay. Because I'm also thinking about the financial aspect, the marketing aspect. That's a really small place to put a sign for a business that the metal across, and it's much lower than most of the signage that's on the rest of the street. I'm not, team here, Landmarks Commission. I'm just thinking that we also want to make Provo Center Street a viable place to have a business. And so I'm just kind of presenting the other side and not wanting to forget about that. Any thoughts on that?
My preference in this case would be to take the staff's recommendation. The sign is already, I mean, it already exists. And I think that the staff is right in suggesting that, you know,
No further damage?
This mounting another sign in this area could cause damage to the brick. And if we let this sign go up, then, you know, other businesses in theory should have the same right. And, you know, how much damage do we want to have to these buildings? Especially keeping in mind that, you know, on Center Street, especially businesses tend to come and go, although I'm sure Third Hive Records Lounge will be here forever. Okay. My concern would be, as Landmarks Commission, would be to accommodate the building. And in this case, especially, I don't see that accommodating the building is going to make the sign any less noticeable. If it's mounted slightly lower. But the rest of the commissioners, I'm sure, have an opinion.
I just had another question. In the image where it's on the brick, is that mock-up to scale? Like that's how large the existing sign is?
It says that it's approximate that size,
Okay.
but the applicant probably could give you a better idea of what that existing sign is.
Then my other question, hopefully you can answer, Dustin, is what does the rest of this kind of section of Center Street look like in terms of where signage is located? Is it going to be?
Yeah, it's a good question. I know the library on the right-hand side, I don't believe there's any signage on that facade on that building. And then as you move west down the street, there's signage and blade signs and things like that. Now, off the top of my head, I don't think I have an image to.
Sticking out sign and then windows. Oh.
Sorry, Guru's has, I think, a sign that sticks out like this,
Blades,
and then
yeah.
it has their names painted in the windows. Oh, here, I guess it's up here on the new building. Oh, there's Guru's. I always think of it as this way, but I notice how busy 3 Hive is. It's really beloved, at least on Fridays and Saturdays. I'm really glad it's like harmony, like these businesses that really make where I live a great place to live. It's a place-making destination spot. Oh, I am torn. That's all. Oh, I'll ask to him. Okay, super. Yeah, I for some reason remembered Guru's as sticking out, not as flat, but I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, and I think to Florence, to jump back to your question, as far as like signage goes in our downtown, and being able to, meet the needs of tenants and everything. So all these signs need to follow our sign ordinance. So there's different, there's size requirements and location and all of that. And so the location that this one's being proposed in versus where staff's proposing that it goes, there is a substantial difference. It brings it a little bit more down to that pedestrian scale, which I think is a good thing for our downtown to kind of make sure we get that vibrancy and pedestrian scale so they can see the signage as well easier. And then sometimes we see signage just come up. People sometimes don't know, like a new business comes in, they don't always know that they need to get a permit. And so sometimes the sign goes up, it gets permanently attached to brick or wherever it might go. And at that point, the damage is already done. So if I think being able to establish the sign in the location where we'd like to see it now versus later is another reason I think that location makes sense, just because it's not a guarantee that someone's going to come in and go through the proper channels.
Right. Oh, thank you for, just elaborating on that. And I really like what you said about the bringing the signage down will make it more of a pedestrian signage. And I absolutely agree with that. And as I'm going along here, there, maybe we could travel on Center Street towards the east a little bit, towards the, I mean, it seems like pedestrian that's the traffic that they're going to get, because
Mhm.
it's brought to, my understanding is that the people come to the area by foot or by cars, but then they find the actual location by foot. And yeah, I appreciate you answering the questions, and thank you.
Yeah. I also see the signage as we go along as being, there's not a definitive pattern. It's up and down and throughout. So I think that the placement of height is not as important, but the visual, how pleasing the sign will look is what's important. And yeah. So I lean right at this moment towards putting it on the glass and preserving the brick.
Any other questions for me, or turn the time to the applicant?
Did you have a question, David? Or-
No, I would just be curious to hear from the applicant, why he thinks the sign would be better up rather than down.
Okay, we'll go ahead and invite the applicant. Please remember to state your name and city of residence for the record.
Sam Cannon. My residence is in Alpine, although I bought this building, so I'm both the tenant and the landlord in this case, building owner. Basically, so we, in the process of going through Allied and kind of getting approval on this, we got the render that you see on the left. The problem with that is, I mean, you have a sign that, I mean, originally that sign was built to be all individual letters and all kind of wired from behind. Because it's my building, I didn't want 1,000 wires poking through the brick. So I asked them to, you can kind of see it in the render on the right. There's like a kind of tan or brown colored box. So I had them construct like a plexiglass box that would house all the wiring so that you could just pull through the wires through that where they're already coming through to power the street number. We'd then move the street number down to the window. So that's where you would see that. It's where it's sitting now. And if we did that same assemblage, but you would have to do that in order to have all these individual signs kind of, to have them hold together. Basically, they have to have some kind of backing to them. So if you moved that down to that metal, it's about half the height of the entire sign. So you'd have these weird like edges around that would be sticking up above the window and then down over the doorway. I mean, aesthetically, I mean, just speaking as a business and a building owner, it would be a no-go for me. I would have to create a new sign. It would, I don't think it would look good at all. I mean, the vinyl sign would look better, honestly, which obviously is not something we want to stick with. So that's my rationale. I talked to them to make sure that they could mount that box where there's mortar and not into the brick, and they said they could, because again, I'm trying to preserve the brick too. So, but if for some reason the committee decides not to go that way, I would be out a $15,000 sign, and I'd have to create a new one that would work in that space, because that won't work in that space. Not aesthetically, technically you could do it, but so that's kind of my rationale. And there may have been some questions that I could have answered earlier, but I think Dustin answered them as well in terms of just, I think, like, oh, the street number thing. Yeah, that's been a thorn in my side too, because our utilities were under two different street addresses and now they've got it fixed. So, but yeah, that was the only thing I was going to comment on.
Okay.
That's all sorted out now.
Great, thank you. So
I
while
have
we
a
have the applicant, any questions from the commission?
How serious is drilling into the mortar? And is it very, yeah, do you know as architects? That's my question to some architects.
I know there's a variety of products that can be used that kind of can anchor into mortar.
Does it damage it?
I
Prolong-
haven't used them enough to know
Okay.
that, but I know there are things out there. Lawrence, maybe in your experience?
Well, this is, if this is original brick, it's likely not reinforced.
Okay.
And whenever you, from an architect's perspective, one of our most difficult jobs is to keep moisture out of a building. And anytime you put a hole in it, whether it's in the roof or you put a window in or whatever, anytime you penetrate the outside surface, then you're introducing moisture into the inside. And, you know, if we didn't do any penetrations, we wouldn't have windows or doors. So you can't say penetrations are bad. It is a, it is a penetration. It's not inconsequential.
Okay.
One thing I notice, especially if a sign's been there quite a long time, is when you remove it, the weathering, around the sign is different than, of course, what happens behind the sign. So it does leave a palimpsest,
Yeah.
of the sign. I'm just curious. Have you ever thought of, when we went down the street and looked at, for example, Enlighten, they just had like a sign. Was it a vinyl sticker sign on the window? Have you ever explored less cost heavy options of that sort, in the transom window or,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
some of the side windows?
Sure. Yeah, we have some vinyl, just like,
do.
door level signage already up. You can't see it in this render, but I think there was another photo that showed it that just has some simple signage.
The banner, right, is what you're referring to?
Yeah, there you go. So you can see it there, like where it says 3 Hive and has our hours and everything. So, I mean, we could certainly do something like that. I mean, we were on 500 North for 7 years and had this sign that people kind of recognize just from a branding and marketing and business standpoint. I'd like to carry that sign over and the vinyl sign has been our temporary fix to that, which is, a flat version of that. But yeah, our goal is to, drive as much traffic as possible into our store and help people find it. We still have people come in on a daily basis who didn't realize until they were at Guru's that we had moved. And they had shopped at our store many times before. So as much as we do get, I appreciate the shout out, Susan, as much as we do get foot traffic in there, there's still a lot of people that need to learn that we're there. And that sign for 7 years was the kind of the wayfinding device for customers.
I'm sure you've thought of this, like with Rugged Grounds, they have their coffee. I don't love their, well, no, it's public. Their vinyl sign on the outside, but it was awesome when it was the actual sign and they have it inside as a kind of a relic of their original place. That's like, but it's $15,000.
Yeah, I mean, it would be an expensive relic for me.
Yes,
As a business
exactly.
owner, vinyl's very popular, but the margins aren't great. So anything I can do to not have to get into an expensive alternative to it, and especially to kind of, I mean, the problem with the vinyl sign is it's not backlit, so at night people can't see it. There's just a number of things that would kind of make that, although it is a less expensive alternative, it's not nearly as ideal as a sign like Guru's has or any of the other businesses that have backlit signs on Center Street.
We have a Question.
Mhm.
With the power already being there, could you use that and put it, and this might be for the staff also, use that and put a light there, just so it could light a sign, rather than having a lighted sign on the brick, put a light there so that it lights the sign that's in the storefront.
Yeah, I'd have to experiment with that. It seems like backlighting would make it more powerful. I mean, those are really heavily tinted windows, and so I don't know if it would, I don't know how it would read. I'd have to experiment with that. I understand what you're saying, but I
Okay.
just don't know how. It would look.
I also think there are other ways for signage besides what you already have. And I understand, and I'm sympathetic to the cost. I'm a business owner also. And sometimes, if something was used for a number of years, that's, you've amortized that, you've used that. And you're in a new location, you have new costs and new situations and new problems. And so while I'm sympathetic to the cost issue, I don't think that that's necessarily a strong factor in this for what we're looking at.
I mean, my counter argument would just be that I mean, the cost, it's a sunk cost, literally. I mean, in the sense that it's, something I paid for seven years ago, but the cost of not having my brand as it's been visualized to the public for 7 years, that is the greater cost for me. Because if I were to put up a different sign that is smaller because it has to fit the window or doesn't reflect that, the sign that I've had there before, that would probably be a greater cost from a branding standpoint. I can swallow the $15,000 if there's no way out.
So to clarify, it's not the hard cost that you're talking about.
I mean, that's a concern because I'd love to reuse it, but if we're talking about a cheaper alternative, but that doesn't look like the signage that everybody knows, that's the bigger problem. I mean, I can imagine a cost-effective solution, but it wouldn't reflect the brand as people have seen it for 7 years. That's my bigger concern.
Could you paint the tan to be black? I don't know. The tan that holds the wires when you placed it on here. I don't know the picture. And you explained that the tan in the back was holding on the wires because you didn't want it to be visualized.
Oh, even if it were black, I'm saying
It would
that
still
that's
be
twice
really
as
odd.
big as that
Okay.
the height of that metal facade. So you just have it extending out. It would look like I was wearing my older brother's suit. It wouldn't fit the space.
If it were put on the large band on the storefront, you're saying the bottom of the sign then protrudes down into that
door.
transom that's above the door?
Yeah, actually it would extend down and above. And that is roughly to scale. So you can see that would go about 6 to 8 inches into the windows above. And then it would go 6 to 8 inches down into that transom window below, which from behind from within the store looking out would look terrible. And then also I think it would look again like a mistake, I think.
Can I ask, is there the potential to move your new power and anchoring to the topmost band of the storefront so that essentially your center line, exactly, would be above the essentially clerestory windows? So you'd have overlap on part of the brick and then overlap just on that topmost row of glass.
Oh, I see. Okay, I think I understand. So you're saying, so where that wire is coming out now, move that down to just
into
below
that
the
top
brick.
band. Yep.
But you wouldn't actually drill into the brick, I think is what
That
would
be the
overlap the
hope.
brick, but not actually
You
drill
kind
into
of
it.
get-
And then where there's a window behind that now,
Mhm.
where the banner is, but you're saying, so you just basically cover the window with the sign.
Yeah, a portion. In my mind, maybe it could be overlapping some of the brick and overlapping some of the glass.
I'd have to talk to Allied about that. It would go over to, it wouldn't fit within the transom window that's above the doorway. is narrower than the width of the sign, so it would have to cover like that and some, and would probably look a little off center if we did that, but I'd have to talk to Allied from a technical standpoint. They had concerns running wire into where the black is, but I can't remember what those concerns were.
Another thing that is done often when we have windows that we really don't want to see through is to use a spandrel, meaning an opaque, non-see-through kind of, instead of the glazing where you can see through it, you put a panel up there, and that can be adjusted. Which
Yeah,
might
I
be
imagine that's
helpful.
what we would do if what Eric was saying is
Yeah.
it was the plan, because you wouldn't want it from behind it, see all the wiring and everything, so you would just kind of just black it out so that
Yeah.
you wouldn't see it.
And you could actually put spandrel pieces on all of those, so it doesn't look like, oh, we just covered these few windows. This was never intended to be light coming through, and you make it you make it more intentional.
Yeah, again, I'd have to look at, I mean, I know the width would be more than, it would be the transit window and then probably that one to the, I guess, to the left if you're looking at it.
Are you saying, Florence, that, so we have the transom that's immediately above the pair of doors, but then the band of metal, and then another longer, we'd pop that entire thing out and basically you use that as your new mounting portion where the sign would be centered on that?
No, that's not what I was saying, but you could do that.
I think the whole, I mean, all those clear story windows could, or at least some of them, like the ones centered around the main door, could be blocked out and used as kind of a new mounting board for the larger sign, which might make them. What I understand from the applicant is you're worried about really proportion of the old sign in this new space. But if you make that whole clear story area basically a backing for the sign, it may look more appropriate, and then you wouldn't have to be concerned about, overlapping windows or, things like that.
Yeah, except I do like the light that they bring in. I mean,
Yeah. Well, you would lose the light, but that could be a solution to using the sign and not, drilling into the brick.
Could a smaller sign be created? The same logo, the same image, but just smaller?
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
I think that's what he said would be $15,000.
Well,
Is
this
that what
was
you're concerned?
15,000. I would do it differently if I were to do a new one. I would,
Oh, okay.
I mean, I mean, I'd be into some expense, but I would probably have Allied do a different sign or have somebody do a different sign that could fit whatever space I'm afforded. And then, it would still match the branding, but I would need to, I'm trying to figure out how I would get it lit. So, again, getting into like, not, blacking out windows or boarding up windows is not something I'm excited about. But if we were to do something in the transom space, for example, instead of a decal like Enlighten, I think it would be a backlit sign that just sits behind that glass. It would be probably what I'd propose doing so that there's some way to see it at night.
I assume that the existing sign could be used on the inside as decoration, as
Sure, yeah.
extra illumination. So you wouldn't necessarily just have to store it in the basement and call it a complete loss.
Are there any other questions for the applicant from the commission?
I guess I have one more. Do you have an estimate of how much a new, smaller sign? I guess you're dealing with endless possibilities for a smaller sign, so it would be hard to estimate the cost.
Yeah,
but-
this one was expensive because those are all channel. I mean, they're all individual letters. And that worked on the previous building that I was on. It worked fine because we were able to pull the wires through to power them. I mean, if I were to do a new one, it would just depend on what it is. If it was like what they call is the coffins, where it's just like a single backlit box, that would be a lot less expensive. If we were to do something, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it would be less than 15,000, I imagine. I just
Well,
don't know by how
Well,
much.
got it. Okay.
Any other questions? All right,
Thank you.
you're welcome. At this point, we usually open for public comments, but since there's no public present, I believe we can just move forward into discussion with the commission.
It seems like there's some flexibility in alternatives that we could have the applicant pursue and investigate. If we are at all tempted to allow the mounting of the sign into the brick, it would be interesting for the applicant to come back and demonstrate research into how that could be done with the minimum, disturbance to the brick. So in that case, I'd suggest tabling this for a later meeting.
I'm not sure what, you mean instead of accepting or rejecting anything right now,
We
we
could
ask for
vote to
further.
continue
Yeah.
to reapply later. But I think like David points out, that would just be if there's any feeling within the commission that you still want to have some additional information before deciding whether it's appropriate to mount to the brick or not. Is that an accurate
Yeah,
summary of your
basically
thoughts?
just how would this mounting happen that would preserve the brick to the maximum level possible? I'd also be interested in seeing if a mounting could be devised that could be taken off well, I guess that's complicated. I was thinking something that could be reused should this building ever, open up for a new occupant. But I'm sure the new occupant would want, their own.
Yeah, I would just point out, Dustin, could we go to the next slide where the vinyl sign is? That kind of gives you, the close-up where you can kind of see some damage that's already been incurred. And then on the larger image, you can already see where that awning was mounted. So there's
Yeah.
there's already plenty of penetration points that, one way you could say we don't want to add any more because there's so many, but on the other hand, I don't know that we would necessarily be pushing it beyond its current state, if that makes sense. If we're to allow a new sign to be mounted in the center.
Well, if we're to allow a new sign, then there would be new damage. And I think just because it's been damaged before doesn't give us a right to say we can damage it again. But I do think it could be, there may be ways to attach a sign to the brick that are not damaging. And if the owner could show that, I'd be willing to consider it. And also as has been mentioned, there's a lot of flexibility in the space and options in that black band or other spaces that have not been presented to us and presumably have not been fully explored from the owner's point of view.
Yeah, I guess I get a sense there's a range of options here,
Mhm.
that could be explored, and I'd encourage that exploration I'd like to give space for that exploration to happen.
I don't want to kick the can down the road and, just leave it open. I would like to have some more specific options presented to us, though. So an option that does follow the staff recommendation and an option that would be non-damaging to the building. Those are two possible options that could be further developed and presented.
Dustin, can I just ask, does Provo City, if this sign sat on a shelf, for example, mounted to the just that bar above the clear story and sat just a few inches away from the building, but not hung on the building, would that be allowed by Provo City ordinance?
So it's
Do you understand?
attached, but it's just kind of,
It would just like rest on
Popping
a
out a
shelf
little
or
bit.
some sort of, I don't know, aperture. That would be attached to that bar above the clear story, but not actually to the building. It would therefore stick out from the building, maybe, I don't know, an inch, or half a foot, or I don't know, but not.
yeah, I think potentially, I mean, if it sticks out too much and
Then it becomes a
changes
blade
from
sign,
a
I
wall
guess.
sign to a blade sign, and then there's different areas that are permitted for that, or square footage, or
That's just another possible solution that came to me that, could be explored. And therefore the sign could be reused, but not actually damage the brick.
yeah.
It appears that there's a structural way to accomplish that this lintel that's holding up the brick
Yeah,
would hold up a sign.
because that's metal, right? So you could drill into it and could hold
Well,
screws or welds or whatever.
the storefront is not appropriate for holding it. What's appropriate for holding it is the part of the building that's holding up the brick.
Oh, so you'd be drilling underneath the,
You would weld.
yeah, okay.
It's not inexpensive. It's doable.
Anyway, just another idea.
I think, yeah, it's good.
Are we at a point where we feel we could come to a determination on whether to approve or reject or continue this item?
I guess I would vote on tabling. I'm sorry, you were about to say something, Susan.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think 3 Hive cares deeply about design. They have good taste and things. So I was going to say, let's table it as well and
Yeah.
give them a little more chance to see if it's possible through good design rather than glued on not quite right embarrassing design to get their accomplishment. That's all.
Okay, do you want to make that a formal motion, David?
Oh gosh, I need the paper. I guess Dustin has something.
Yeah, and I just, maybe if that's the route that you're heading, there's that option that you could clarify, say you, as a commission, you don't want it on the brick, you don't want it mounted to the brick. You could advise the applicant of that and to come up with a design that doesn't mount to the brick. And then they can bring that to staff, as opposed to having to come back to another public hearing. If staff reviews it and doesn't feel like it meets what you've clarified as expectations, then we could bring it back.
That was sort
That's
of my
good.
suggestion, if you
Yeah.
explain what you want and then let the staff make the decision.
Okay, so I make a motion that we recommend tabling this proposal to give time for the applicant to explore other possibilities beyond mounting the sign to the brick. And they could present these possibilities to staff. And if staff feels like they have checked the boxes, then they can approve it. But if the staff feels like it requires further discussion before the Landmark Commission, we will all meet again to discuss the sign.
I second that motion.
Yeah, I was
Sure.
just gonna,
What can I clarify?
Hi, Sandy Wilmoth, Planning Secretary. So when you make the motion to table, it sounds like a motion to continue, but then you also said approve. So let's clarify that motion for the record. We're either going to continue it till we can come back with certain conditions, or we make a motion to approve, provided that it meets certain conditions that staff can review separately.
Right.
Dustin, does that work for you? Okay.
So the motion would be then to approve the
With
signs
conditions.
with conditions, and those conditions is that a solution is found that does not require drilling into the brick of the building, of the facade. And if those conditions are met, then to staff satisfaction, then the sign can be mounted. If not, then this issue can be brought before the Landmark Commission again for further discussion. All right, we got there.
We have a motion.
I second the motion.
All right. So then all in favor of the motion, say aye.
I,
Aye.
The motion has enough votes to proceed. Again, it is approving with the conditions that mounting in the applicant's preferred location does not damage the brick, and to come up with solutions to review to staffs together with the staff.
Yes.
Oh, yes, and the vote was unanimous. Thanks, Sandy. And with that, we then entertain a motion to adjourn the hearing.
I second the motion.
I think you just motioned to, and then someone seconds it.
Oh, what do I do? I,
I move that we adjourn.
oh, thank you so much.
And then you.
I
can
second the motion.
All right, all in favor?
I.
Aye.
All right, this